What you just saw was security footage from within Wyoming's only full-service abortion clinic, and it clearly shows someone coming in with a gas can to light a fire. The fire was set back on May 25th of last year in Casper, Wyoming's second largest city, and the site of quite a lot of ongoing anti-abortion protests. Now, that footage has been available. I believe we previously showed it on the channel before. What's new is they finally got a person. So it took a year-long investigation. There were witnesses who had heard some stuff, and there was the footage, obviously. And now Lorna Roxanne Green, a 22-year-old, was arrested on Tuesday by Casper police and agents from the FBI, as well as the U.S. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Green faces up to 20 years in prison for the arson and a $250,000 fine if convicted. She's scheduled to appear in federal court on Thursday morning. Now, thankfully, nobody was injured in the fire when it was set, but it did leave damage, obviously, and it was designed to shut down access to abortion and abortion-related services in that area. So good, Jessica, that they were able to find someone. Considering the fact that their face was covered, I'm sure it was difficult, and so this is progress.
Yeah, I wasn't even aware of this until you put this on my radar, John, which is interesting because it had me reflecting on, remember when police precincts were burnt down in protests after police were shooting unarmed black men? It was all over the news. People were saying it was terribly violent. The organizers who were at those protests and who were doing things like this were, in trouble immediately. We knew who they were. But when it's, political violence coming from the other side, which I don't know if I really believe the destruction of property is violence. I really think violence is when you harm another living human being. But to many, the destruction of property is violence. But when you see the destruction of property for political reasons on the other side of an abortion clinic, it's not front page news. It's not something that we're talking about. I think that's really concerning because I do see healthcare, which abortion clinics provide healthcare to people who go there, who have uteruses, who are pregnant. Sometimes it's just STD testing as well. It's a public service, it's healthcare, and you're burning the building down, and we hardly hear about it. I think that's an interesting contrast.
Yeah, it is amazing. Like, obviously the right wing isn't gonna talk about these sorts of things, but I feel like generally the mainstream media, which I would call the other right wing media, often just ignores it too. It's like there was a meeting and we decided that certain sorts of places are able to be targeted freely, whether for arson or even like for protest. And protest obviously is legal, but you'll notice that if it's like a Supreme Court justice and you protest them, the media can work itself up into a frenzy. But when it's just many abortion clinics every single day being protested, that doesn't merit coverage. You can burn down a place like this and it'll receive a little bit of media coverage. But if it was a church being burned down, or if it was, I was gonna say a children's hospital, but I feel like they'd probably ignore that these days too. Yeah, it's weird where the blinders suddenly pop up for the media. And by the way, I want to remind people some of the developments going on inside of Wyoming when it comes to access to abortion. The GOP has passed a law to ban abortion state with minimal allowances for things like rape and incest, those sorts of things. Violation of the law is a felony that carries penalties up to 5 years in prison and a $20,000 fine. And by the way, they had to be tricky in this law because the Wyoming state constitution says that people have a right to make their own decisions when it comes to healthcare. So they had to define abortion as not being healthcare in this bill. And I believe it's actually been banned now. Thankfully, Judge Melissa Owens has temporarily blocked it, but we're gonna have to see what happens long term. And their bill to ban medication abortions has not yet been blocked. So there is still, like they have this two-pronged approach. You have some individuals going to burn down abortion clinics, and then you have their elected representatives attacking the access to the rights as well. Any other thoughts, Jessica?
Just that if you've ever been to any kind of clinic or any kind of healthcare facility that provides abortions, you might notice that now there's armed security at a lot of them. And they make sure that when you arrive there, you get out of your car safely, you enter safely, and you leave safely. So when we see things like this happen, where it's after hours, it's caught on the security camera, I think the reason that is because they've had to take precautions and invest in having security when people who are going to these clinics are arriving there. So you can imagine the kind of, I don't know, reaction or violence we would have if they weren't taking that precaution. It's really scary.
Exactly. Yeah, and like this was a 22-year-old. Like this person was born into a world where you had already had access to these rights for literally decades at that point, and was radicalized to believe that those rights should be stripped away 2 decades later. Like, look, people get to be passionate about whatever they want, but think about all of the other things your attention and passion and energy could have been put into. And now you face potentially a $250,000 fine, 20 years in prison. Was it worth it to temporarily stop people from being able to control what happens to their body? I don't think so.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.